Picture this. You walk into a law office desperate for help. The attorney across the desk promises justice, expertise, and integrity. You trust them with your case, your secrets, your money. But what if that very lawyer is secretly building an empire of lies, fraud, and crime? What if the person sworn to uphold the law is the one breaking it? Welcome back to the Verdict Room, where we examine the cases that shattered the legal profession. Today we're exploring something truly terrifying. Attorneys who crossed the line and became the very criminals they were trained to prosecute. Before we dive into these shocking cases, you need to understand something fundamental about the legal profession. Lawyers are officers of the court. They take an oath to uphold the Constitution, serve justice, and maintain the highest ethical standards. This isn't just a job, it's a sacred responsibility. Attorneys are given access to their clients' most sensitive information, their finances, their secrets. They're granted extraordinary power and privilege. And with that power comes an equally extraordinary responsibility. When a lawyer breaks this trust, it's not just a crime, it's a betrayal of the entire system. It's a violation of the very foundation that justice is built upon. Let's start with one of the most explosive cases in recent memory, Michael Cohen. You might know him as President Donald Trump's personal attorney, but by 2018, Michael Cohen became a cautionary tale of how far a lawyer will go to cover his client's secrets. On August 25, 2018, Cohen pleaded guilty to 8 federal crimes, including tax fraud, bank fraud, and campaign finance violations. But here's where it gets darker. Cohen admitted to making hush money payments to adult film actress Stormy Daniels on Trump's behalf. These weren't just legal matters, they were criminal acts disguised as legal strategy. What's particularly chilling about Cohen's case is how brazen his crimes were. He misrepresented the purpose of bank loans to cover the payment to Daniels. He concealed these transactions from tax authorities. He essentially weaponized his position as an attorney to commit crimes under the guise of legal representation. In 2019, Cohen was sentenced to 3 years in federal prison. But more than the prison time, Cohen's license to practice law was revoked. That's the ultimate punishment for an attorney, the loss of their professional identity. What should terrify any client is this. Cohen wasn't some low-level associate. He was a senior attorney, a trusted confidant, someone given access to the highest levels of power. Now let's turn to another attorney whose name became synonymous with courtroom disasters, Michael Avenatti. Avenatti represented Stormy Daniels against President Trump, and for a brief moment, he was the most famous lawyer in America. Cable news networks couldn't get enough of him. But in 2019, federal agents arrested Avenatti for extortion, fraud, and money laundering. The investigation revealed that Avenatti had stolen millions of dollars from his own clients, including Stormy Daniels herself. He used client money to pay his personal expenses, his luxury car payments, even his restaurant bills. This wasn't financial negligence. This was calculated theft disguised as legal fees. In 2020, Avenatti was convicted on multiple counts and sentenced to 4 years and 3 months in prison. What makes this case so disturbing is the scale of the deception. Avenatti had built an entire practice on a foundation of lies. He was misappropriating client funds while simultaneously positioning himself as a champion of justice. He appeared on national television, spoke at political events, and cultivated an image of righteousness, all while systematically robbing the people who trusted him. The Stormy Daniels case that made him famous was itself funded by stolen client money. It's a perfect illustration of how criminal intent can hide behind a 3-piece suit and a law degree. Let's move to a case involving one of the most elaborate financial schemes ever perpetrated. R. Alan Stanford and his attorney, Spencer Fentress. Alan Stanford was a businessman who ran a massive Ponzi scheme that defrauded investors of over $20 billion. But what's crucial to understand is that his attorneys facilitated these crimes. Spencer Fentress, an accomplished lawyer, knowingly helped structure fraudulent investments and conceal money. When the scheme collapsed in 2009, Fentress was convicted of conspiracy to commit mail fraud and conspiracy to commit money laundering. He received a 20-year prison sentence. What makes this case particularly relevant to our discussion is how normalcy provided cover for the criminality. Fentress wasn't lurking in shadows. He was operating in a legitimate law office, working with prestigious financial institutions, using all the tools of legitimate legal practice as camouflage for fraud. His law license gave him credibility that directly enabled the scheme. Investors trusted the legal structure he created. They trusted that a licensed attorney wouldn't be part of something fraudulent. That trust was catastrophically misplaced. This is the insidious danger of lawyer criminals. They exploit the very credibility their profession provides. Now we move into territory that's even darker. In 2016, California attorney David Westerfield was charged with transporting and distributing child sexual abuse material. Yes, a practicing lawyer with a prestigious background was caught with images of children being sexually exploited. Westerfield eventually faced multiple charges and pleaded guilty to possession of child sexual abuse material. His case reminds us that criminal instincts don't discriminate based on profession or education. Some of the most trusted people in society can harbor the darkest impulses. Then there's the deeply disturbing case of Texas attorney Kenneth Petty. In 2016, Petty was investigated for sexually assaulting a minor. While not all investigations lead to conviction, Petty's case exemplifies how the legal profession can shield abusers. Institutional protection, professional networks, and the presumption of credibility that comes with a law license can all create environments where predatory behavior persists. When a lawyer faces criminal allegations, other lawyers often circle the wagons. The system that's supposed to hold everyone accountable sometimes protects its own. So what's the pattern here? Why do some lawyers cross this line? There are several psychological and professional factors at play. First, there's access. Lawyers have unprecedented access to confidential information, financial systems, and vulnerable clients. They know how to exploit legal systems because they understand them intimately. They know how to hide transactions, create paper trails that seem legitimate, and exploit procedural gaps. Second, there's ego. Many lawyers develop a sense of invulnerability. They're trained to argue their way out of difficult situations. They see themselves as smarter than the system. They believe they can outsmart prosecutors and investigators. Third, and most importantly, there's a fundamental corruption of trust. The legal profession demands that clients and courts place absolute faith in attorneys. When that faith is weaponized for criminal purposes, the betrayal is uniquely devastating. It's not just a crime against an individual, it's a crime against the entire system of justice. It erodes public confidence in the rule of law itself. When people can't trust their lawyers, what institution can they trust? The consequences for crooked attorneys are severe, and they should be. Beyond prison sentences, these lawyers lose their licenses permanently. They're disbarred, meaning they can never practice law again. They're stripped of their professional identity, their income, and their status. They become pariahs within the legal community. Bar associations have disciplinary processes specifically designed to remove unethical attorneys from practice. But here's the uncomfortable truth. These mechanisms only work after the crimes are discovered. They're reactive, not preventive. And some criminal lawyers operate for years before they're caught. What we've learned from examining these cases is that the legal profession, like any profession, is vulnerable to human weakness and criminal intent. Education and prestigious credentials don't prevent moral failure. In fact, they can enable it by providing cover and credibility. The solution isn't to distrust all lawyers. Most are ethical, hard-working professionals who genuinely serve justice. The solution is transparency, accountability, and rigorous oversight. Bar associations must have teeth, client protection funds must be robust, and most importantly, we as a society must remain vigilant about who we trust with our cases and our secrets. The cases we've examined today, from Michael Cohen to Michael Avenatti to Alan Stanford's attorneys, all share a common thread: the abuse of power and trust. These weren't crimes of passion or desperation. They were calculated, systematic breaches of professional responsibility by people trained to uphold the law. They serve as chilling reminders that no profession is immune to corruption, and that the higher someone rises in a position of trust, the more catastrophic their fall can be. If you've been disturbed by what you've learned today, that's the appropriate response. Justice depends on a functioning legal system staffed by ethical practitioners. When lawyers become criminals, the entire foundation trembles. So what do you think? Have you encountered a situation where an attorney's conduct seemed questionable? Do you have thoughts on how the legal profession should police itself? Drop your comments below. We read every single one. And please subscribe to The Verdict Room for more in-depth legal analysis and courtroom breakdowns. We've got investigations into judicial corruption, landmark trials, and the cases that change the law coming your way. Hit that notification bell so you never miss an episode. We'll see you in the next trial. The Verdict Room, where justice is examined under the microscope of truth.